other, sorry, I forgot to hit record too. So um, the other option is there should be a Q&A area in your Zoom area that you can submit questions, and I'll kind of try to monitor that as I go as well. So different ways. If you want to talk, you can just raise your hand, or if you just want to submit a question, go ahead and do that. So, all right. So let's get started. I wanted to recap some of the more recent updates. So first off, I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware when we do a new feature announcement, you should get that announcement put in your face when you log in. At any point in time, if you kind of want to go back and review that, remember we have this little bell icon in the view latest news and updates. So I just wanted to remind everybody here, this is kind of where we post new features that we want to make sure people are aware of. If you want to go read more about the actual update itself, you can click on the cloud updates. If you want to view any of these past recordings, like I'm doing today here, you can go into this usability webinars and then click on any one of these to review that. So kind of wanted to recap that. The first kind of feature that I wanted to recap that I haven't gone over yet is this unit lock assignments. And what that basically does, a couple of things. So you'll notice here on my occupancy map, we have these little symbols in the lower right, depending upon how you have it set up. But there is a new lock feature, which means for those of you that might have, maybe several rooms that are similar, but a customer requests to be in that specific unit, you don't move them. We have the lock feature. So when you click on any of that, when you click on the reservation from the occupancy map, you'll see the current status listed here. If you want to change the status, you'd simply click on it. So if I want to lock myself into this unit, I can click on this reservation. It's currently unlocked. I can currently then just click on it and lock it. That will display on the screen. The other location too is when you make that reservation and you're on that final screen, on that final review screen, that same button appears here too. So if you want to lock them in right when you're booking that reservation, when you get to this final stage, you can click the locked button and make sure it's locked. Now, not only does we present the symbol on here, it also will give you a warning. Now, we at rezStream kind of let you override things, but we make sure you're aware of it. So if I try to move this reservation down, when I let the mouse button go, kind of populates that similar message I get, but these things are not even clickable until I basically override the system. So it gives me a warning message here, unit locked. It indicated that it should not be moved or changed. Are you sure you want to go ahead and do that? So once you click on yes, now these become active. So that is one thing that do allow you to override it, but it could never accidentally be moved or anything like that. So, all right. Hopefully everybody has seen that. I will have a couple of polls here later just to ask you a few questions on some of these things. As well as, of course, my survey at the end that I always appreciate when people fill out. This next one is a kind of a quick one. I don't even think we announced this, but I wanted to recap it because we had several requests from people. So when I am in a reservation and then on the invoice screen, popular request was sometimes when I'm on this invoice, we used to never really have the link back to the reservation. So you were kind of maybe in an invoice and maybe you were in the invoice from the invoices section. Then you could never really go back to what reservation this was for. We've implemented these links over here on the right. First thing is a little drop down button. So you kind of get a little recap of the reservation. As well as the link to the reservation. Same thing with the name. We get a link to the name on here. And then if I hit view, I can actually just go right back to that reservation screen. So this also comes in handy, maybe even like in reports. So sometimes you run a revenue report and it will show like the invoice number. You can click on that invoice number and then you can go right to that reservation without having to kind of try to figure out, write that invoice down, who it was for, then go back to the system and find that reservation. So again, that wasn't something that was huge, but it was a commonly requested feature, or just not even really a feature. It was just something we were lacking that we were getting a lot of feedback on. So, all right. Again, just make sure if you have any questions along the way. And again, even if there are questions you want me to cover later, even not even in regards to what I'm talking about, go ahead and enter those in. So the next area I wanted to cover is going back to the occupancy map. So we're really trying to make, we understand a lot of you work right from the occupancy map. We're trying to make this more useful every single time that we create with an update. We'll continue to do that. One of the most recent things that I did do a webinar, but in case you missed it, you can show the number of guests. So on that, it'll the first letter of the guest type. So A is adults, so A5. You'll also notice now we have the ability to also show some other information without having to click on that. So some of these reservations, you're going to see the name and phone and nights and people and these custom fields. So that is found in the occupancy map settings under display settings. So this is kind of where we added, we had this before, so we had the ability to, show the phone occupant, show the number of nights. This is the show the guest counts that we added before that. And you now have the ability to show custom fields on here. So if anybody has created those custom fields on their reservation screen or actual person screen, you can now show those on the occupancy map without having to click. Now, I will say if you have, if you try to show 6 different fields and you have a bunch of information in there, it is limited to the space that you're providing for that. So, a one-night reservation, and if you're trying to show 5 different fields in addition to it, it won't be able to cram all of that into that space. So just as a reminder, in case somebody was not aware, if you do kind of want to show a bunch of information and make sure it all shows up, you can stretch out these, single day. So that's showing you a single day width. So again, it'll show you kind of a demo of if something was entered into all of those fields, what it would look like. On my scenario, I'm trying to show 4 different custom fields. If I were to have information in all 4 of those fields and I wanted to show, you can kind of get an idea of that. So play around with that if you wanted to show some fields. Play around with the, kind of the single day screen, so you kind of get an idea of what that looks like. So right. That was kind of one of the key things I wanted to talk about as well. Next up is the most recent addition, and that is retail sales. So, a lot of our customers offer things for sale besides just a room or a cabin or a unit. They also sell items, and sometimes they sell items to people without reservation. So it could be just like a little retail shop that maybe some locals come in and buy something from you, and you want to just create a sale for that in rezStream. So previous to this update, we had like a new invoice, and what that required was it actually required you to enter a person's name on there. And so the workaround was a lot of our customers had a person in there called like retail or POS sale or something. And then all of those invoices were always attached to that one person, which then if you had a credit card, they pay by credit card. Now all those credit cards are attached to that person, which wasn't the best solution. So we have now implemented an option for when you hit new. I'll show it from both here. When you hit new, we now have if you want to create an invoice for retail sale, which basically means you don't want it associated with any individual person in here, or if you actually did want to attach it to a person, you can click on the POS for person. The POS for person is the same way that it was, but just if you guys were doing this, when you hit new invoice, it went to this screen. Now we've added this POS invoice for retail sale. When I click on that, it's basically launching right into what are they buying. So if they're buying a t-shirt, I can click on the t-shirt, hit save, and it's basically creating an invoice, and it's kind of just labeling it as a retail sale. Then go ahead and pay that. Maybe they use cash, make payment, and this is done, right? So I've created an invoice that isn't really necessarily attached to anybody, and it's paid, and then I can close that and it's done. And it'll show up in reports like always. It just won't be attached to a person. The great thing here, one of the biggest pieces of feedback why we made this change was because of those credit cards. So I don't have a great way to demo that, but if I were to make a payment and if I had credit card processing enabled Shift 4, and I put in a card number, that card number was stored under that person. And then every time I went to go make a payment using a card, it had, they have 100 different credit cards listed there, which isn't the best solution. So now that when you enter a card number here, it doesn't really get stored because it wasn't really attached to anybody. So that was that way, new US invoice. The other area is, of course, if you click on the invoices section, we have now created two. There used to just be a plus sign. So now here we've got those two options. We've got a POS invoice for a person. So again, that actually goes the old way and attaches it to a person, or the POS invoice for retail sale. So we've got the two different ways to create invoices, new or come to the invoices section and hit the plus sign. So, okay, so that is that. I don't see any hands up or any questions yet, so that's great. The last new thing I wanted to recap, this isn't really a really big feature and I can't necessarily really show it. I did want to go in here and with this retail sale invoice or retail sale invoice announcement, we did also add this. So the other commonly requested things when people did credit card processing was sometimes that customer may have used a few different cards recently or in the last 2 years or whatnot. So now when you choose card or on file, will actually show you the most recently used card and when that was last used. So you no longer have to guess, oh, they just used this card when they paid the deposit, this new one. Now they said, I use that card I used for the deposit. Now you can kind of clearly see that was their last one used. So, all right. I can't really show that, but again, that is in the credit card when you're make a payment using a card and whether it's on file here. So, okay, that ends that portion of this webinar, kind of the recapping the new sales or the new features, I should say. With that, I'm going to actually launch a poll just because I wanted to get an idea of kind of, where you guys are at, what you guys are seeing. If you guys don't leave quite yet, if you're interested in seeing more, I am gonna ask more. I'm not launching the survey here or ending this, so I am gonna continue and kind of recap like a best practice tip. So this is just a poll question. I wanted to get an idea of, for this webinar and these new features, what you guys are using. So if you could answer these questions, that would be great. So take it shouldn't take more than a minute of your time. I'll give it a couple minutes here and see if you guys have been using these new features or not. All right, I will give it 10 more seconds here. All right. Thank you for that, by the way. Just to give you an idea here, most commonly used feature was showing that more information on the occupancy map, which was great. That new retail sale followed that, which is awesome. So 60% of you said you were not aware of all of the features before this webinar. So I'm glad I did this webinar. And I had kind of asked if you feel like our method of communicating new features is sufficient. 80% of you said yes, which is good. And then I asked kind of how would you prefer to get notified of new features. 80% of you had said email announcement, and then followed by kind of the current in-app and then login. So I appreciate that. And then I wanted to switch over and kind of offer some tips, tricks, or this is probably more of a best practice I'm going to review. So a couple of things I wanted to focus on, and that's really on your website. So it's actually on your website / booking engine. So I just kind of wanted to recap a few things, especially since over the summer we sort of launched a more uniform, responsive booking engine. And I just wanted to recap that. So first thing I wanted to recap, first best practice really is, I want to make sure everybody does this periodically. I think everybody should just go out to not only this booking engine, but go to your website, act like you're a guest, act like you're interested in maybe staying at your own property. Look around on your website, make sure it's easy to find the information you might be looking for, or they might be looking for. So just kind of always do that. And as far as the booking engine goes, I'd encourage you all to go out there. A couple of things I wanted to recap. We did launch the ability to either show or hide this portion of the booking engine on this step. So wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And then if you do show that, we have the option of showing rates or not showing rates. So wanted to recap that just to make sure you were aware. In case you weren't aware, or if you're not showing it and you do want to show it, or you are showing it and you don't want to show it, you can go into the booking engine section of the software. That portion is listed under the full availability calendar. When you click on that, here is where you can either decide to show that calendar. And then if you do show it, here's the option of, do you want to display rates right on that calendar or not display rates? It's totally up to you. This is kind of one of the tricky things, right? Since a lot of our customers have some unique rates. They might have a rate that's available if you just stay one night. You might have a rate that's available if you stay 3 nights. Maybe that changes if you stay 6 or more. So the problem if you do have those complex rates, when you do show those rates on the calendar, it's always a tough thing. But what we're showing is your default rate on here. And just to give you an idea, when it is, we put an asterisk on there. So when the customer hovers, they can kind of see restrictions on there and why that's an asterisk. So just to recap, when you do show rates, we show your default rate. If that default rate happens to be a weekly rate or an extended rate, we actually average, we put the nightly average of that rate on here. So just to give you an indication, if you had a weekly rate that was $700, it required a 7-night minimum, it's going to show $100 on here because that's your default rate. And when they click on it, it's going to require them to stay the 7 nights, and then they will get a rate of $700 for that 7 night. So just kind of wanted to recap that. Oh, and this is just for me encouraging you guys to run out there, look at your website. The other thing I want you guys to do is grab your phones, your smartphones. Most people have those nowadays. If you don't, congratulations. I sometimes wish I didn't have one, but go to your website on your phone. Look around on your website there, of course, but then on the booking engine. So we used to and still do, we had a mobile booking engine that was separate from, it looked different than that standard booking engine. And, you know, it was kind of streamlined, but it didn't really have all of the capabilities that the full booking engine had with regards to some of the messages. So go out to your current booking engine from your phone and seeing if you're going to see if you get the mobile booking engine or the standard booking engine. And then if you are getting the mobile booking engine, I'm going to launch that here. You're going to get the mobile booking engine. You'll kind of see it. This is obviously not a great way to look at it. I would encourage you, go out there. If you're getting this, click on the view desktop availability calendar from your phone and see what that looks like. So it should be this full calendar, but of course it's now responsive. So it's going to basically kind of have that check in, check out as the focal point here. So people will click on that and hit search. It will act pretty much like that old one, but it'll just give a little bit better experience, just because it'll incorporate all the new features that we added on the booking engine. And then if you do click on that and something looks off, first thing I want you to do is email me. If nobody has my email address, I will give it to you, but email, or you can always email support at rezStream.com. Let us know that. We will get this booking engine responsive and kind of working and looking good. Then if you want to make that switch, you can basically come in here and disable that mobile booking engine. So then when people are coming to your websites from their phones and they hit now, they will now be presented kind of with your full booking engine, but it'll be responsive and look nice on a phone. So I encourage you to go out there, look at it from your desktop, look at it from your phone, and see how that works. That's kind of my best practice for that section. I did want to cover some other best practices here. I want you guys to continue on and click on, do a search. And what I really want you to focus on here is what these pictures look like. Make sure they're not blurry, high quality photos. You can make sure the order is what you want them to be. And we always recommend 3 to 5 photos per unit. But don't just present one photo and then that's it. What we're trying to do here is in your booking engine, they've expressed interest. They've added some dates even here. They're to this step. Don't make them maybe leave this area to go back to your website. Because, once they leave this, they get back to your website, might get on a rabbit hole, find other stuff, and then maybe their baby starts crying and then they never get back. So more information you provide them on this screen, including pictures. Pictures are worth, I would say 1,000 words. I think it's worth 10,000 words. So go poke around, see what those pictures are. Put a nice description on there so people can actually read about that unit without having to leave this area. Again, expressed interest, you've got them here. Don't give them any reason to leave here. So go and encourage you all to go out there, look at those photos, have 3 to 5 photos. Now, I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of where those photos can be added. And that is basically, you could do it a couple different places. You can go to the booking engine under images, and then most people have those images kind of stored somewhere on their computer. So you can go hit add and load them all up in here. And then basically what you do is you come down and select your unit, and it'll show you the current pictures that are on here, but you can kind of keep adding to those. Then you'll also be able to rearrange that. So when I said not only look at the pictures, look at the order of the pictures. Did you want your exterior first? You can kind of shuffle that up, make that be your first photo. You know, we always talk about having, if you're kind of doing cabins, an exterior photo is good. A bathroom photo is always nice, especially if you're not having cabins, if you're having rooms, or if you're in breakfast. Real bathroom photos are really nice, bedroom, bed area. And again, try to get those as high of quality as you can. It is important. People do, that does matter. People do take that into consideration. The last thing kind of on the booking engine part, this kind of ties into your website too, is I'm going to open up a new page here and go to I'm going to go to like my hotel type website. Oh, ADA. Let's talk about ADA. Even if you don't have any ADA accessible rooms. So if you do have ADA accessible rooms, make sure you have them tagged in the software. So that is done in the configuration section under your units. You can actually decide whether this is ADA accessible or not. So make sure if it is ADA accessible, you tag that. So then people can actually come out. Oh shoot, I lost that page. Hold on. There we go. Then they can filter on that. So I can choose my dates, filter on ADA accessible units to make sure I am actually going to be adding one of those units. ADA is important. So again, even if you don't have ADA accessible units, that's fine. And you don't have to mark any, you don't have to have it out here. But on your website, you are still required. And if we're seeing it all over the place, especially in southern states, but it is trickling over to a lot of different places. So there's these drive-by lawsuits. They're kind of taking advantage of people that don't have their websites up to date with ADA. So have some sort of ADA widget on there, which an ADA widget basically allows anybody with a disability to maybe put a huge cursor on there, or highlight links, or make high contrast, bigger text. Make sure they can tab through your website through that. So I'm hitting tabs and it's kind of going through each link. Those things are important. If you don't have those things, you're susceptible to a lawsuit because you are required to have those. And usually what people end up doing is settling out of court. And a lot of times that price tag is like $10,000. Having these types of features doesn't necessarily mean you're for sure not going to get sued. They're looking for the easy targets. So if you have some accessibility features on your website, you become less of a target. The other thing we've learned, somebody recently just beat a lawsuit because they went to court and did it. On your website, you're supposed to describe kind of how wide of openings are your doorways, how big of steps, and so we have some best practices. You can always reach out to me again directly if you have questions on any of that, but it's something to keep in mind because it's not going away. We continue to hear people that are getting sued if you don't have those things. Now, the more you have on here, the less chance you're going to have being sued. Doesn't mean you can't be sued. It just means the lawyer that's out looking for an easy target and come to your website, see that you have an accessibility menu here, and you focused on that. They're going to move on. All right, I wanted to just kind of verify that. Now, I wanted to, one more thing quick, and then I'm going to ask you guys a question and launch another poll, and then we'll kind of wrap up if nobody has any questions. So one more question or little tip trick on this occupancy map, because I haven't covered this in a long time, and I'm not sure people are aware. And it's for some people, isn't necessarily great for others. So it just depends. So we have the ability, especially, and this is great for, especially if you've got a large number of units, they're all not showing, or if you're pretty booked up and have a large number of units, we have the ability, if you click on these dates, some people are aware of this, other people don't. If you click on Thursday, the 28th, actually going to start filtering. It'll only show units that are available for that 28th. And what it does is it creates this little filter icon up here. Now you can come through and say, show me, they want to come the 28th through the 30th. Now it's filtered it even more, show you just units that are available for that particular time period. But again, this is particularly useful for those folks that might have a large number of units or quite full and have a large number of units to quickly just kind of filter out and make sure they can see that. So, and then of course you can kind of hide those filters and go back to your square one. So, all right. So that's kind of the stuff I wanted to show you. Now I do have a question for everybody that's remained on here. Fourth quarter here for rezStream is all about integration. So we are focusing on trying to make it easier to integrate with outside systems. And I'd love to ask you guys a whole question about integration. So if you guys could please just take a minute out here, help me answer those questions. So kind of the biggest request we get is like POS software. Do we interface with any POS software? This could be a retail type POS system for a gift shop you might have. If people just want to add things to their bills, but then you want to kind of track it with a POS software, or restaurant software if they want to add it to their bills. So if you could go through and answer these questions, it would be great. It's 3 questions. Kind of wanted to get an idea of if you're using any software. If so, what do you use? And there are a ton of them out there. So I just kind of tried to put a few that heard from our customers, but we know there are plenty out there. So I kind of put other on their scenario. Then if there's any other systems you guys use that maybe we aren't thinking of. So, POS systems is what our focus is, but what else do you guys use? What other systems do you use to help your property run? And would you be interested in having those integrated into rezStream? So we've got a little over half of you participated so far. You could look around here. I'll give it another 30 seconds or so. For those of you that have not entered it, I would greatly appreciate it. Hopefully, everybody, I know there's a lot of folks, especially here, and I'm in Minnesota, by the way, that are kind of winding their season down or done. I know in my house, the leaves are pretty much all on the ground, starting to get chilly, some freezes. So if everybody's in that situation, hopefully that's a good thing for you. You're able to have more time in your day to do other things rather than try to ease your guests. So, right. 10 more seconds here. If you've not answered, that'd be great. A little over half. And 5, 4. I don't need to do a countdown. All right. Appreciate that. Thank you for that. So I don't see anybody's, hopefully everybody's able to raise their hands. I don't see anybody that's raised their hands. I do not see any Q&A questions about anything in here. So either that means maybe it wasn't useful or it was really useful and I covered everything perfectly and nobody had any questions. So with that, I wanted to make sure I give you my contact information just in case you don't have it. It is Jeff Hebrink. My direct dial phone number is 303-872-6121. My email is jeff.hebrink@rezstream.com. My contact information, if anybody has any questions or just kind of want to go over anything, even if it's not even related to this webinar, just give me a call or shoot me an email. I will have a survey here that shows up at the end when I stop this webinar. Again, I do look at each and every response. They are anonymous, but I do look at everybody's feedback. Feedback is really important. Are these things useful? I love ideas. If people want to give me an idea for next webinar, I would really appreciate it. I'll try to keep coming up with some useful content. So, all right, everybody, thank you for your time. I'm going to stop the webinar. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks again, guys.